I must thank Connect Care, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and all of the other agencies represented here for bringing together all our international partners and the local representatives. As I came in today, the Secretary of the Prime Minister gave me the National Water Resources Policy. So things are moving in Sri Lanka because water is finite, as they say. And Sri Lanka in the old days had a hydraulic economy which made water its main resource and not land. We may have to go to that stage again. Anyway, in the short time available for me, I thought I'd like to outline the stand of the government of Sri Lanka in regard to climate change. Firstly, as we emerge from the economic crisis of debt restructuring and debt sustainability, the new model of the economy we look for and we will be building will be based on highly competitiveness, digital transition, energy transition, and transformation to a green economy. I mentioned this to some of the business leaders I met yesterday. I will discuss this with the leaders of political parties after the budget. But this is the path and the only path that is available to Sri Lanka. Building on this will be the agricultural modernization, the accelerated tourist program, amongst others. We have to identify our potential. Everyone says Sri Lanka is small. What's our chances? Being small has an advantage. But we have a large dry zone and our population is only 22 million. So we are going to have excess green energy, not merely solar, wind power, hydrogen, but is what we are now focusing on. And Sri Lanka at the moment do not have the expertise to make the plans. So we are reaching out to the multilateral development banks and to our bilateral partners to get that expertise to put together a new plan. We are in our transition to the green economy. I already presented the climate prosperity plan last year, and this year at COP28, we will bring the net zero plan. In keeping with the Secretary General's request and call to accelerate the implementation of the plans, we are looking at see whether we can reach net zero by 2040. It is not impossible. It can be done. So, firstly, Sri Lanka economic strategy is to go for high growth, to see what we can raise commercially. I'd like to see most of the money is raised commercially through the different instruments available, financial instruments as well as investments. It's a tough task for Sri Lanka, but let's take the challenge and go ahead. To be one of the first countries and the first country in the region to have a green economy. We have many firsts, so we can add this to it. Secondly, to promote this change in Sri Lanka as well as in other countries, we have now committed ourselves to establishing the International Climate Change University, ICCU, a common platform which will help us and all those nearby. I'm talking with the Maldives government of the ability to have a small island center in Maldives. So that is our second contribution to the Sri Lanka as far as climate change is concerned. I would like this university to be an international stakeholder university, not a Sri Lankan university. We've already set apart 600 acres overlooking the Kotmale Reservoir for this university. Thirdly, Sri Lanka is building its capacity on climate finance. When we look at the scenario, the capacity on climate finance and the discussions are limited to mainly to the north, to the multilaterals and a few of the larger voices such as China. Rest of us do not have that capacity. Since we are moving towards the green economy, we are also building, I said it's necessary to build up our capacity on climate financing, the whole range, not merely the climate financing, also debt relief and financing and the other connected economic issues. Therefore, I put together the highest team possible, advisor on economic stabilization, the Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, Secretary, the Governor of the Central Bank and Secretary to the Ministry of Environment, together with a group. Not merely to look at Sri Lanka, but to be able to participate in the discussions that are taking place globally. Because this is one thing the global south lacks. We do not have that expertise, nor have we built it up in regard to climate financing. So this discussion is a prelude to COP28. And COP28 is the important meeting where we are going to have the global stock taking. This is necessary because we are far behind the target of 1.5 Celsius. If we go on like this, by end of this century, it will be 2.5 Celsius. Now we cannot work on that. We cannot go on. So we have firstly to decide on the global goal on adaptation. We have to define it. We haven't defined it. We have to define it in relation to these targets. We have to first fix the targets and work out the rest of it. So this is the first part. The second part is how do you have a fossil fuel phase out? And now there is this argument whether you phase it out or you reduce the utilization of fossil fuel. It has to be a phase out. Second, even in the south, there are different target dates. China, India has one target date. We are looking to come forward. I think everyone will have to accelerate their dates. There's no way in which we can stick to what we have. That is not possible. Then we have the whole issue of compensation, funding, loss and damage fund. And that is where the big fight will take place. Is it a narrow or a broad approach on this issue? The North will like to limit it to the islands that are under threat. The South wants to include all. I think the islands under threat is essential, but we have to at least include those parts outside there, outside the islands, in our areas or in the South and in the North, which are vulnerable. If you don't take the whole of the globe, at least take in the South, take the areas that are vulnerable. Let's start with that. And what is the contribution? We were going to double our 2019 contribution to 2025, which was going to be about 300 billion US and to about 500 by 2050. We are nowhere close to that. How are you going to find this? How are you going to raise it? Who's going to contribute? The fact is the money is there. In this year, the contribution to Ukraine and Israel, I think, would have met more than half the demand here. I'm not saying not to give to Israel, or if the Americans say not to give to Ukraine, that is their decision. But it means there's also money available for the rest of the world. But that is not forthcoming. So this is the big issue. What are you going to do? And then the Americans say no reparations. Now there's one other issue that we must remember. We are meeting in the Middle East. We are meeting in the background of the Gaza Strip and the battle that's going on there. You are coming into a very charged atmosphere. And I would say the North has to be careful of the strategies they use. Otherwise, it will get disrupted both on the grounds of climate change and what is happening elsewhere. Now, that is what we have to avoid. We must have a successful outcome. In my view, the Americans must not even mention the word reparations or not giving reparations. You work your numbers out, but don't make the mistake made so far. So, we have to ensure the success of the conference. What Sri Lanka is proposing in this instance is the tropical belt. The biodiversity is the highest in the tropical belt, and since the resources are limited, focus majority of resources on the tropical belt. The impact on the tropical belt, the positive impact will be felt outside that. So we will be appointing a panel of experts. I would like your help in obtaining the services of experts who could study the tropical belt proposals to see how it can be worked out. We have to make COP28 a success. Sri Lanka will certainly participate and express our views forcefully, but with the objective of making it a success and not to allow it to be broken up. It is a very crucial meeting on climate change. How we conduct ourselves and how flexible we are will determine the outcome. And this is what Sri Lanka is planning to do. Both the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Environment will accompany me together with some other members of Parliament on both sides, but that's how important this conference is. So I don't want to take any more of your time. I'd like to peruse your valuable contributions once the conference is over today. Thank you.